historical background of Gurdwara very much committed that was there were respect of preachers and creatures like and there were huge variety of flora and
At Candia, enjoy flat 25% off on making charges and stone value. Conditions apply. This is
अपने सुपर पावर यूज करने का टाइम आ गया है। आप टेंशन मत आप टेंशन मत लीजिए। आईआईएफएल फाइनेंस से झटपट गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और बिजनेस आगे बढ़ाइए। लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे, अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और आईआईएफएल फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए। आईआईएफएल फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
dear students, you have mentioned about that here in class 1 years of so I will try my best to fulfill. Dear students, good morning. And today's session we are going to discuss the lesson number 4 that the rat trap is a story full of entertainment. Dear students, now we are going to discuss about the important lesson, the lesson number 2, the last lesson. In this important lesson, the narrator Niju describes about 2 episodes during her journey. The first one was to Shimapuri, where she witnessed the rag pickers in the Simo. And the second one was Firozabad, where she watched the condition of the bangle makers. Here in Simapuri, people were squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971 in search of their living, as there were many storms that had blown away their house and fields, and they had nothing there to get food and get something like money. Here in the street of Simapuri, they picked up rags. There were children and there were adults. For children, it is a wrapped in wonder and like a bowl. But for the adults, rag picking is a mean of survival. As far as their condition, they are living in the miserable condition. They had not the houses. They lived in cloth, grass, and tent-made houses. Somehow they had their names in voter list and ration cards enable them to buy grain. It is very hard for them to get food for the day, for himself and for the family. Children were in rag clothes and barefoot. It was a miserable and pathetic condition there. Now we are going to enter the second phase of the chapter, where we will discuss about the condition of the Bengal makers in Firozabad. There were the workers who worked in a hazardous condition, without any proper air, without any proper light, and they were in narrow cells. Among them, there were the adults and the children. And for children, it was a very dangerous because they had to work in suffocated atmosphere, in a dirty cell, and there is always mishappening with them. They work there at high temperature and sometimes because of the polishing and of the dust, they lose their eyesight before they getting adults. The adults also work very hard, but unfortunately, they could not manage their new homes. Somehow they renovate and it was a surprising job for them. Each and every family in Firozabad was engaged in making bangles, and the same situation was there also. They also looked for suitable conditions and struggling for their livelihood. Their descendants are also engaged like their forefathers. And when the narrator asked one of the boys named Mukesh, who replied her that he had a dream to become a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a surprising jump among the traditional. It was innovative decision for Mukesh because it was a different one and it was a very daring and encouraging decision among the traditional society. When the narrator asked the people why they are not going to unite in a cooperative, then they replied there was no leader among them who can hold them in a proper way. They had the fear of being arrested by the police imposing a false case against them. So that's why they are under the effect of a kind of custom, a kind of tradition, where the upper class people, middlemen, police, administrators, and officials trapped them in the vicious circle of the past, in which they are engaged and unable to come out of this. This was the condition. But a miraculous story as far as in glass industry is concerned, as far as in Firozabad is concerned, it was none other but the Mukesh who dreamed of being a motor mechanic and to drive a car. It was a very daring decision and exceptional one, especially among the traditional in the society. And it is the remarkable figure in this chapter, The Last Suspect. Thanks for watching this. Dear students, very good morning to all of you, and we are going to discuss about the important poem Keeping Quiet, composed by Pablo Neruda in our class 12 syllabus. In this poem, the poet describes about the importance of peace and appeals the readers to keep quiet when he counts from 1 to 12. It is a matter of concern for all of us in this dynamic world when we are going to do the work sometimes without thinking. And now we are going to destroy our entire humanity after the scientific development. In this perspective, the poet appeals the readers to keep quiet to understand ourselves and to others so that we can poem the poet discusses about the development of the nuclear weapons. If there is a nuclear war, there is a threat of destroying the generations, and after the result, the young generation will find in ignominious darkness where they settle here but unable to know what they have to do. In such a situation, the importance of peace is a great one. The poet gives an example of the earth, which seems non-living but proves to be a greater one. Teach us the important lessons of silence and harmony and to live with peace and love together to maintain this entire creation by the God. And that's why the finally once again the poet Pablo Neruda appeals us to keep quiet before he departs from his counting from 1 to 12. The poem has an opportunity to let us talk about the poem Fire and Ice. In this poem, the poet Robert Frost picturizes two contrasting images of fire and ice. In this poem, he describes about the opinion of the two people, in which some say that the world will end in fire, and some say in ice. And the poet clarifies that the world will end in fire. Because the fact symbolizes desire, and a desire always allows the person to look hungry and to overconsumption of the things in the world without compromising other people's need. Hence, the poet Robert Frost has observed the theme, and finally, he supported the one who favors fire. On the contrary, he also clarifies the fact that ice, which symbolizes hate, can also destroy the world if it has to be destroyed. Because hate is also a negative quality in human being, which creates jealous, and hence it is a dangerous one for the entire human being. So it can also destroy the entire humanity in the world. So finally, the poet concludes to say that both fire and ice are responsible for the factor to destroy the world. We must have a control on both of them, otherwise, it may be powerful for the world. This very is the central idea of the poem. We are going to discuss about the important lesson that is related to class 12, and it is the last one. This lesson, M. Hamel, the language teacher, and discusses about the importance of the mother. And there is a student named the friend who got late, especially on that day, and he had the fear in his mind that he would scold him. But M. Hamel was silent, and he told him that he will not scold him. And finally, he started to teach them the importance of the mother. The friend was surprised to see that there were no old people sitting at the back benches of the classroom. And M. Hamel was again and again giving the importance of the motherland. He told that the faith is the most cherished and the beautiful and the logical language in the world, which can be learned easily. And he also told that when the people are in hungry or even sad, that it is the only way to come out of the prison as it is in. And finally, M. Hamel blamed himself and the parents are ignoring the study, which is the most important one for that. But everybody was in the class had the tears because M. Hamel would not continue his teaching, and it was a sad way for all of them. And finally, the judge vanished, and M. Hamel declared that the class was over. Before this, he wrote at long patch on the board, Vai Bhaga class. And finally, the class was ended. Dear students, we are going to analyze a remarkable poem by Kamala Das, My Mother at 66. In this poem, the poetess describes about the aging process, how an old age looks different in life. In this poem, the poetess drives to Cochin and finds her mother beside her. She looks very pale, old, and like a corpse, and she realizes her beside her. At the same time, she thought of her oldness, and it was her childhood fear, because she had the fear to lose her mother as she was in a very old stage. But soon she saw young children coming out joyfully of the house and the trees sprinting during her journey. All this movement was joyful to her, and she forgot about her mother's terrible oldness. But soon she realizes her mother is standing a few yards away, and she did nothing but only smiled and bade her, saying the word, "See you soon, Amma." It is a pathetic and affectionate attitude of the poet towards her mother, which makes the poem full of imagery and affectionate approach in this stanza. And finally, the poetess concludes that it is an aging process. So, very good evening to all of you, the students. And now we are going to summarize the lesson number 4, the enemy. The lesson belongs to the period when there was the World War. I think World War first, when America and Japan were bitter enemies. And there are the important character in this story, Dr. Sadao, Hana, and the white American soldier, along with Sadao's father. Sadao was a Japanese, and his father' chief concern was to get him as a doctor, for which he had struggled a lot, and he wanted him to a doctor. For the further study, he sent him to America, where he learned about medicine. An American professor taught him to save a man as long as possible without any discrimination, either on the race, culture, or any racial background or about on the country. After all, Sadao returned to Japan not only as a surgeon but also a scientist. In the same period, Sadao and Hana had a meeting, and it was by chance Sadao was invited to an American professor where Hana was already. Hana was an American medical student and was already there at the professor's house where Sadao went, and they became friends. Their friendship became closer and closer, and finally it was so close that they were ready to get married. They did not marry very early, but they returned to Japan, and Sadao's father arranged the marriage in Japanese way. After that, they lived together with happiness. Meanwhile, an incident took place that when both were at their roof, they saw a man floating in sea water. They got down and found out the American war prisoner. They were in dilemma whether they save him or not. And after all, being a human being, they felt pity on the man and took him to their house, where Shadao and Hana, though they did not like to do something for them, but after all, Shadao decided to operate him as he was seriously injured. Before operation, Shadao was in dilemma whether to operate him or not. Even he was unable to find out the fact why he was going to save the man, an American prisoner who was his enemy. But after all, Shadao decided to operate him. During this period, Hana cooperated him very well, and Shadao asked Hana to get closer to him as the white man needed anesthesia during the period of surgery. Hana helped Shadao to do as he had instructed. After all, after a hard work, Shadao succeeded to get the bullet out of the white man's mud. And during this period, Sadao was just like a normal surgeon, forgot even that he was his enemy. And cooperated him very well. The man got recovered. As soon as the man got recovered, Sadao remembered of his promise as a countryman. It was his duty as a countryman to inform the police sergeant. So, in this perspective, Sadao sent the white man, did not send, rather, he thought about it to inform the old general. He informed about the presence of the white man in his house to the general. The general, who was treated by Sadao, that's why he told Sadao that he would save him every possible way without any execution. And he told him that he would send two murderers at any planned night to kill him and manage all the things. Sadao waited for the murderers, but they could not come, as the general forgot the promise and he did not send them. And finally, when Sadao understood the thing, he decided the man to save him again. He decided to send him his own native country where he lived. And for this, he secretly bought the belongings for the white man from the market and arranged a boat where all the belongings were loaded on it. And he gave the white man his own torch, which he used during the operation. And he informed him to signal him once if everything was safe, as it was a necessary thing for him. But he instructed him not to signal at night because he would be observed. He told him to wait for a Korean ship, and after all, the things will be managed. During the situation, Sada was in such a condition. Another part we have to know that during this process, the gardener, Yumi, the cook, and other servant left Sadao's house. In such a critical situation, Hana was not accustomed to do the hard labor of the kitchen. But anyhow, she managed the things very well. She did not find herself in such a situation to be hopeless. Rather, she managed the things. Even Sadao also cooperated her well. Both of them helped each other to face such kind of challenges in life. And the gardener was suspected for this on his own young master Sadao. The servant thought that for so many years they lived in America and they forgot the duty as a countryman and as a patriot. But Sadao understood the things very well. Now the question arises as far as the Sadao's character is concerned. It is the most important question from this chapter. Sadao had performed every values and for the sake of all this. As a doctor, he treated his own patient, though he was his enemy, but did not show any partiality or any indifference to it. Rather, he treated well to the white man. And finally, as a doctor, he helped him to save his life. And as far as the countryman is concerned, he reported the general about the presence of the white man, and he did not show any partiality or any secret here. Rather, he reported to the old general. So, as a countryman, he performed this job. As a human being, Sadao did what his inner feeling uh, communicated to him. And after all, this chapter, the enemy here justified the things that humanity is supreme all over this. Though the white man was his enemy, an American soldier, but as a human being, he was doing his own duty. And as a doctor, Sadao was doing his own duty. But Sadao was in dilemma of doing his dual duty, first as a doctor and second as a countryman. As a doctor, he was taught by American professor to save a man as long as possible, without any discrimination or difference on the basis of culture, religion, or any native country. So after all, Sadao did what his professor had taught him. And on the other hand, it was his duty to report what happened, especially with him, as it was a patriot feelings to the country, and it was his duty as a countryman to surrender the white man to the general. So he reported the general about the presence of all this. Now we have a quick summary in Hindi about the lesson, the enemy. The lesson, the enemy. सप्लीमेंट्री के चौथे पार्ट से उद्धृत द एनिमी, जिसका नाम है शत्रु। ये कहानी उस विश्व युद्ध की है जब अमेरिका और जापान दुश्मन थे। यहाँ पर जापान का एक बालक है जिसका नाम शडाओ है, जिसके पिता की सबसे बड़ी चिंता थी कि वह उसे पढ़ा लिखा करके एक डॉक्टर बनाए। जापान में चिकित्सा पद्धति इतनी त्वरित नहीं थी, इसलिए उन्होंने उसे पढ़ाई के लिए अमेरिका भेजा। अमेरिका जाने पर उसे अमेरिका के चिकित्सा विज्ञान के प्रोफेसर ने पूरी तरीके से शिक्षित किया, चिकित्सा में, एनाटॉमी में, शरीर रचना क्रिया विज्ञान में, और उसे निर्देशित किया कि एक डॉक्टर का कर्तव्य है आने वाले जो व्यक्ति है, जितना अगर घायल है तो जितने लंबे समय तक हो सके उसकी रक्षा की जाए, जात के आधार पर, नस्ल के आधार पर, किसी देश के आधार पर न की जाए, अभी तो उसकी जान बचाई जाए। और इसी दौरान सड़ाओ की मुलाकात अमेरिका के एक विद्यार्थी, एक लड़की जिसका नाम हना था, जिससे उसकी मुलाकात हुई। संयोगवश सड़ाओ को भी अमेरिकन प्रोफेसर के द्वारा घर पर आमंत्रित किया गया था, जहाँ पर हना पहले से मौजूद थी। दोनों की मुलाकात हुई और दोनों मित्रता में बन गए। धीरे धीरे उनकी मित्रता इतनी नजदीक होती गई कि वे वैवाहिक दाम्पत्य सूत्र की ओर आ गए। लेकिन उन्होंने कोई जल्दबाजी नहीं की। आखिर जब वे जापान पहुंचे तो उनके पिता ने पूरी तरीके से शादी का जो प्रबंध था वो जापानी तरीके से किया और वे एक परिवार के रूप में साथ साथ रहने लगे। इसी दरमियान उन्हें, जब वे छत पर टहल रहे थे तो उन्हें एक व्यक्ति पानी में तैरता हुआ दिखाई दिया। जब वे नीचे आए तो उन्होंने आग पहचाना तो देखा कि वो अमेरिका का युद्ध का एक कैदी था, एक अमेरिकन था जो उनका दुश्मन था। दोनों इस दुविधा में पड़ गए कि इस आदमी का क्या किया जाए। वो आदमी दिखने में मासूम लगता था कि उस पर हना को दया आ गई और फिर सड़ाओ और हना दोनों उसको अपने कमरे में लेकर के आए और अंततः डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने एक डॉक्टर होने के नाते उसका ऑपरेशन किया और पूरी तरह से उसका इलाज किया। जब वो पूरी तरह से जो है ठीक हो गया तो डॉक्टर सड़ाओ ने बूढ़े जनरल को सूचना पहुंचा दी कि एक सख्त व्यक्ति एक रात उसके घर आया था और उसने उसका पूरी तरीके से इलाज किया। बूढ़ा जनरल इस बात पर पूरी तरीके से और भी आश्वस्त हो गया। उसने सड़ाओ से कहा कि अगर उस बूढ़े जनरल को एक बार बेहोशी की स्थिति भी आ जाए तो उसे सड़ाओ पर भरोसा हो गया कि स्वाभाविक रूप से वो उसे मारने नहीं देगा। और वो हंसा कि आपका व्यक्तित्व ही ऐसा है कि आप इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, और उसे आश्वासन दिया कि वो चिंतित न हो, उसके खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी। आपित वो 2 हत्यारों को भेज देगा किसी रात को, जो उसको अंदर ही अंदर मार करके उसकी लाश को गायब कर देंगे। सड़ाओ मन ही मन संकुचित हुआ, लेकिन जो बूढ़ा जनरल था वो इस वादे को भूल गया और आखिरकार सड़ाओ ने उसको उसके स्वदेश भेजने का पूरी तरीके से प्रबंध कर दिया और उसके लिए बाजार से आवश्यक सामग्री खरीदी और उसे एक नौका का प्रबंध करके उस पर सारी सामग्री को रख दिया और रखने के बाद उसे निर्देशानुसार अपनी टाल दे दी, जिसको वो चिकित्सा के समय इस्तेमाल करता था, और उससे कहा कि गोधूल वेदा से पहले वो उसे उस टार्च से एक बार संकेत कर देना कि सब कुछ ठीक है और वो एक कोरियाई जहाज का इंतजार करेगा, लेकिन निर्देशित ये किया कि रात के अंधेरे में न करे, अन्यथा वो देख लिया जाए। इसके उपरांत ये भी इसमें नौकर का भी हम जिक्र करेंगे, जिसमें यूमी जो रसोइया था, एक बूढ़ा माली था और अन्य जो नौकर थे, ये सब उस समय पर छोड़कर चले गए जिस समय सड़ाओ ने उस आदमी की चिकित्सा की। लेकिन हना एक ऐसी लड़की जो इन कठिन कार्यों को करने में अभ्यस्त नहीं थी, उसने बड़ी बहादुरी से इन परिस्थितियों का सामना किया, सड़ाओ की हर संभव मदद की और वो इन परिस्थितियों में उसके साथ थी। उसने कभी भी अपनी हिम्मत नहीं हारी और बहादुरी से हर चीज का मुकाबला किया। तो सड़ाओ का जो चरित्र है वो अपने आप में इसमें श्रेष्ठ है ही है, साथ ही साथ हना का भी चरित्र भी अपने आप में श्रेष्ठ है। दोनों ने मिलकर के इस परिस्थिति का डटकर मुकाबला किया। ये पाठ इस ओर इंगित करता है कि सर्वप्रथम एक मानव होने के नाते कोई भी व्यक्ति है उसकी रक्षा करना उसका दायित्व है। एक चिकित्सक होने के नाते उसका ये दायित्व है कि बिना किसी भेदभाव के वो किसी की भी रक्षा करे। ये इस पाठ का सारांश था। इस पाठ को पुनः एक बार आप अध्ययन करेंगे। कहीं पर कोई भी चीज अगर आपको असहज लगती है तो उसके बारे में आप कमेंट के माध्यम से सूचित करें या किसी अन्य माध्यम से आप सूचित कर सकते हैं। आपके उन समस्त प्रविष्टियों को समय पा करके उसका निदान किया जाएगा। आप आगे के लिए प्रतीक्षित रहेंगे और पूरी तरीके से इसका अवलोकन करें। धन्यवाद। Dear students, very good evening to you. And in the reference to our supplementary edition, we are going once again to summarize the next lesson, lesson number 5, which is a play. And in this play, there is an important character of Mr. Lamb and a boy who is 14 years old, Derry. Both are partially disabled. Mr. Lamb is matured man, leading toward age, while Derry, a teenager, has one side face burnt with acid. Derry is downcast because of his burnt face and avoids the people's company because the people look at his face and comment. And in this escapement, by chance, he passes through Mr. Lamb's garden, finding it quiet and peaceful, and as a Praveshi, Derry sneaks away to Mr. Lamb's garden secretly, but finds surprised to hear Mr. Lamb's voice. And suddenly he meets a man like this. Derry becomes angry and decides to make a plan to go away from there. But somehow Mr. Lamb tries to explain the things very well. Derry always makes a question in different ways. Mr. Lamb is a matured man. He has experienced and studied the things very well. He is bold and fearless. Even disabled with one leg, having a 10 legs, he learned how to do the works in the garden. He is open-hearted and kind-hearted man likes the company of anyone. By the other hand, Derry, a teenager, always avoid the people, thinking that the people would see him and comment at him. But both meet each other and there is an argument to take the different things. Derry always blames the people and his burnt face, which makes him to think like negative in life. But in spite of all this, Mr. Lamb always explains him that there are other things which he can do and become a positive one in life. But Derry, being depressed, always thinks of his negativity and finally blames himself and other people to comment on it. Mr. Lamb gives him a different types of examples and mentions about a story who hides himself in the house because he has the fear that his feet has on his skin, banana skin, and he slips away down the fall and the people will laugh at him. And also that while traveling on the road, a vehicle, a bus or motor bus drives over him and to knock him down. And a girl with whom she or he falls in love and she cheats him away. And different kinds of things he was thinking in his mind. And what happened? One day, a picture in the room fell upon him and he died. Derry laughs at this very much. And Mr. Lamb also. After all, Derry himself does different types of things. And finally, Mr. Lamb tries to answer all the questions very well. And Mr. Lamb explains him very well. But in spite of all these positive references, Derry remains stay at his burnt face, thinking that everything will change in the world, but his face will not change. And at last, Mr. Lamb tries to ignore him and move to the beach, saying that you will not come here again if you visit your home. Derry finds challengeable in such a situation and promises Mr. Lamb that he can do. Mr. Lamb at this tells him it is only his work to do such kind of thing. But once again Mr. Lamb challenges, telling him that he will not come here again after departure from the guard. But Derry promises Mr. Lamb to come back again in the guard. After all, Derry visits his home again and finding her mother there, his mother there. His mother was asking him where he was. Derry replies her each and everything happened at the guard and like to come guard. But Derry's mother stops him to stay there at home. Derry replies her that each and everything in the garden attracts to him. So he prefers to go there. And finally, Derry sneaks away the house and finds himself again in Lamb's garden. But here, Mr. Lambs fell down from the ladder and died. Derry cries loudly, but finds Mr. Lamb dead and feels sorry for it. The lesson, the play comes to an end with the lesson that a good man, a motivator, Mr. Lamb, dies who finds a doorway for Derry who is downcast in the story. And Derry becomes a positive one to face all the challenges in the life. The lesson is a motivation for the young generation who is distracted even at a little thing which is get away from him. Now we have few words in Hindi. पार्ट ऑन द फेस ऑफ इट एक नाटक है जो एक वयस्क यानी वयोवृद्ध मिस्टर लैम और एक 14 वर्षीय बालक डेरी के बीच की कहानी है। डेरी के बाएं ओर का जो चेहरा है वो तेजाब से झुलस जाता है, जिसकी वजह से वो भागा भागा फिरता है और अपने आप को घर में कैद करके रखता है। जब कभी भी बाहर वो निकलता है तो उसे ऐसा लगता है कि लोग उसके चेहरे को देखते हैं और डर जाते हैं और उसके ऊपर भद्दे भद्दे कमेंट करते हैं, इसलिए वो लोगों से बचना चाहता है। इसी क्रम में घर से बाहर निकलता है और भागते भागते एक बगीचे के पास पहुंचता है जो मिस्टर लैम का बगीचा होता है। ये देख करके कि वहाँ पर शांत है, प्राकृतिक वातावरण है, कोई व्यक्ति नहीं है, वो चुपके से उस बगीचे में प्रवेश करता है दीवार फांद कर। लेकिन जब उसे मिस्टर लैम की आवाज सुनाई देती है तो वो चौंक जाता है और फिर से वहां से भागने का निश्चय कर लेता है। मिस्टर लैम उसे समझाते हैं कि उसे वहां से भागने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। कई अन्य बच्चे वहां पर आते हैं और खेलते हैं और फलों को प्राप्त करते हैं। वह उन्हें टॉफियां भी देते हैं और उन्हें आराम से खाते हैं। मिस्टर लैम उन्हें बताते हैं कि उनके पास भी एक पैर नहीं है, असली जो पैर है वो युद्ध में, इसलिए उन्होंने टिन का पैर लगवाया है। लेकिन डेरी उनसे कहता है कि वे उसके ऊपर ट्राउजर यानी पैजामा या पैंट पहन लेते हैं और वो हिस्सा छिप जाता है, लेकिन जला हुआ जो चेहरा है वो नहीं छिपता है। इसलिए डेरी कई बार कटाक्ष और मिस्टर